is Habiba or Yege or Yarekwa. You know, this program is designed to bring in the actors and players in Governor Godwin Obaseki's administration, and of course to come talk about his style of governance and his achievements in the last 3 years and 8 months. This morning we are going to be chatting with Dr. Eromona Edorodion, the Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development. He is a Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, Urban Community and Regional Planning, sorry. He will be speaking on the physical planning and urban development policies of Godwin Obaseki and its impact on Edo State as a whole, all-encompassing Edo State and, of course, her people. Doctor, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you.
We'll meet again.
Yes, we do.
Now, can you give us a general overview of your work at the ministry since you assumed office?
Yes, I assumed office in July 2017. Since I assumed office, the key responsibilities of and mandate of the Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development are urban planning and public building maintenance, construction, and renovation. These are two main arms of the ministry. In regards to urban planning, we are involved in regional planning, urban development, development control, urban renewal. These are aspects of urban planning that the ministry is actively involved in the statewide. The ministry has its head office in the city, Benin City, the main city in the state capital, and we also have offices across the local governments in the state to ensure adequate coverage of the state in this regard. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, what do you have to say on the governor's commitment to providing space for youth in governance, and of course, those that can be seen in his appointments, the younger generation, like you?
Yeah. The governor is a godsend to the youth in Edo State. I will say this because I'm a living testimony of his love for the youth and belief in the youth. My appointment as commissioner in Edo State basically came as a miracle because one wouldn't expect that a governor would be so objective to actually look outside into a professional area in seeking someone that he thinks will be equipped to actually deal with the affairs of the ministry. He actually, I would say, went out objectively in his quest for a commissioner for physical planning and urban development. And even though I emerged as a very young person, that didn't deter him in his quest in objectively picking somebody to occupy that space. And I can say objectively and clearly, without any fear or favor, that he believes in the youth, and I'm a testimony to that. Thank you.
And you are giving your all?
Definitely. To whom much is given, much definitely is expected.
Now, what are your key achievements in the last 3 years and 8 months in office?
Yes, as I said earlier, you have two main arms of the ministry.
Yes.
For physical planning, that's urban planning, we have a lot of achievements. We've been able to carry out effective control of physical development across the state, ensuring that the city is guided as it grows, our urban centers.
We want to mention them?
Generally, we do. We ensure that developments are in line with approved regulations and standards. Like, for instance, you have activities where people build on right-of-ways of high-tension lines or moats. We have had cause to go there and, correct some of these violations. We have situations where some developers also develop without recourse to permits, to getting permits from the state, which also makes such developments illegal. So we also try to reach out to such violators and ensure that they are captured within the development plan of the state. That's for physical planning. We have also ensured within this arm of the ministry that there is retraining and, training of our staff. Government was good enough to have engaged a consultant specifically for this purpose, Arctic Consulting, and they have been engaging the ministry in training its staff to better equip them with best practice in executing their assignments, the planners. That's the planning aspect of the ministry. We have also initiated processes of updating our urban master plans, development plans, and that is also a passion of this government to ensure that our cities have, development plans that will guide development, That we have done. We have reviewed our law. We have that presently before the House of Assembly for public hearing, and they would now, haven't considered that, they'll bring it to the governor to pass into law. So we've been able to achieve that. We've done a review of our regulation, but we are expecting that once the law has been passed, we'll do that as well. Then we have achievements in planning again as our ability since 2017 October to electronically archive all planning permits that are issued in the state. So if you have had your approval since 2017 October, we have it in our database in the state, electronically archived. Before this time, we were not actually archiving planning permits. We only store them in archives manually. Just recently, about 3 months ago, in collaboration with ICT agency, they've been very cooperating, they've been very wonderful. They have helped us even develop an application where you can now see on your phone, mobile device, approvals that are issued in the ministry. Because when the approvals are issued, we electronically archive them. Then we have them also for our officers to use on their Android phones to be able to ensure during development control exercises that such violations or such developments are already captured and have building permits. That's for planning. In the other arm of the ministry, which is public buildings, we have a lot of achievements.
Okay.
Notable amongst these achievements is the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium.
Yeah.
Okay. We also have the Secretariat Complex as a notable achievement. We have the Chief John Odige Oyegun Training Center, the CSTC. We have the Command and Control Center. These are projects within Benin City. There are a number of projects we've executed in the Ministry of Physical Planning, over 70 projects within this administration. I could go on and on and on. We've intervened even in healthcare. We have built the Lassa Fever Center in Stella Obasanjo Center, hospital that presently is used for the COVID-19 isolation center. We built that in Auchi General Hospital. That's for healthcare. We have done projects, healthcare in sports. We have mini stadia across the state. Presently, we have completed mini stadia. You have at the Dumais School of Health. You have Western Boys. You have one presently ongoing also in Adesua Grammar School. You have them just around the state, these mini stadia, that's in sports. We've intervened even in regards to transportation, looking at our intervention as a state through the ministry in the airport to ensure that we have night landing in the state. The governor was very magnanimous to have assisted in providing solar shelters. We have watchtowers, 3 watchtowers that were constructed. Even generators, were provided there. That's our intervention in transport. In transport also, we have intervened in the Central Bus Terminal. That's a project that is ongoing. It's a notable project. It's a project that would transform Benin. The rowdiness you see today will be a thing of the past sooner than later once that project is complete, because it ensures that all vehicles coming towards the city center, which is the King Square, would go straight to the central bus terminal, and it's in an organized manner where you would not find this rowdiness and traffic congestion that you find presently around this city center. So that's a notable achievement of this government. We have so many, but more recently, actually towards the end of last year, His Excellency had thought out of a way to make all these investments in public building sustainable. And we had discussions and we agreed. He brought up the idea of the need for an agency, public building maintenance agency, to ensure the sustainability of all our public buildings, so that it's not enough to just invest billions, hundreds of millions in constructing the stadium, for instance, or constructing buildings, finishing the buildings in the Secretariat complex without ensuring their sustainability.
Okay. Now,
so, okay.
No. You said something about training of the members of staff of your ministry.
Yes.
Now, these trainings, are they done in batches?
Yeah.
Or you just lump them together?
Yes, we had 2 batches of training because of the need to ensure continuity of work. If you bring everybody together into a training program at the same time, it will mean the office will be shut down. So we had it in 2 batches. We've had 1. We are expecting to have another, which will be international. But due to the work plan, that is not yet done. So we are going to do that. The local was in conjunction with the Edo State Polytechnic, USE, the University of Benin as well.
Yeah.
So we had that training. It was a 3 weeks training where the staff of the town planning arm were all, taught on best practice and how to be better and more efficient in executing their assignments. We had facilitators from the United Nations Habitat, from Kenya, from Abuja. We had facilitators from the Netherlands in that particular training program. Facilitators from Uniben, and it was also in conjunction with the Edo State Polytechnic USE. We expect that beyond the theoretical components of the training, we will have practical components. Yes, we talk about what an ideal city should actually look like. Unfortunately, during the training of many of our planners, they do not have the opportunity to even see what these ideal cities look like, because they might not have traveled to the Western world or to more organized climes where things actually run as proper. Because we are used to this whole rowdiness and we think it's what's proper, but in reality it's not. And that's the essence for the international component of this training program.
So the trainings, have they in any way translated to any change in the members of staff that were trained?
Yes, there is translation. It's evident the impact this training has had on the members of staff. There is now some sense of responsibility and ownership amongst them. Yes, there is this attitude that normally exists in work environments that it's their own. But with the training, you can now see some sense of responsibility, sense of ownership of the work. That's very important. That's where you talk about passion. You should have a passion for what you do. You should understand that it's only when that passion exists that you can actually get the best most times from your working experience. Okay,
now what is the progress of work on projects across the 3 senatorial districts and contractors? Are they intensifying the work that you're doing?
Yes, that's a good question.
Thank you.
During the course of this first administration, His Excellency was very clear on his need to start and finish most of the projects we started in the first administration, so that there is opportunity going forward for even more projects. It's not enough to start a project and leave it hanging. So most of our projects are 90%, 95% already complete. The projects we started in this administration. Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium is there. The projects I've mentioned, the isolation center for Auchi, most of them, the 70 plus projects I talked about are beyond completion. Even the Muslim Hajj camp was completed. You know, he has intervened in many sectors, in religion, you know, in many sectors. So most of them are near completion.
Okay.
Yes.
And the contractors are working?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Now, there has been a lot of work on demolition of houses along flood paths. How is the work going?
Yes. There are, the issue of houses on flood paths it's a major issue, more especially because Benin City, as the capital city, is a relatively flat topography and terrain, and where developments occur without proper guidance, without proper development plans, there are tendencies for people to have developed on paths that were not ordinarily supposed to be developed on. However, recently, following the inundation of flood of most of our settlements within the city, there has been the need for the ministry to intervene. We're looking, let me take an example of where we are working presently, the Erediawa axis, where a road was constructed and somehow the water has gone in a direction and houses get submerged when the downpour is heavy. In that particular case, it's not enough to just, by looking at the topography, identifying these buildings that have fallen within low-lying areas. So there is need for some scientific study to be done. We have engaged at SOPADEC to ensure that there is a topo map that actually shows the real contours of the area. And from that, we can now clearly identify where is lowest in topography in those areas and now map out. But we've had to intervene in some cases where we have to remove certain sections of property to ensure that those areas get some respite in regard to flooding. Thank you.
Dr. Eromona Edorodion is the Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development. When we come back, we are going to be taking a look at cement as an option in road construction. Stay with us.
My name is Amin Amausa, a coach in Edo State Sports Commission. Take a look at the Ogbemudia Stadium and you will see that there is a radical shift from the tradition of the past where government intervention was cosmetic. I am overwhelmed by the drastic transformation of this sports arena to an international stadium with state-of-the-art Olympic standard facilities. This new edifice has greatly motivated the coaches and athletes in the Sports Commission. With this radical transformation in the sports sector, it is clear why the federal government picked Edo to host the National Sports Festival with several other international sports activities lined up.
Whoever thinks says Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium go better like this na another Obaseki wonder. I bet make una clap for our wait and see Governor Godwin Obaseki o.
You're welcome back to the program. Dr. Eromona Edorodion, the Commissioner for Physical Planning, is still right here with us. Now, Eromona, how did you achieve the magnificent work on the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium?
Yes, the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium project didn't actually quite start in a way that we had expected it to. What I'm saying is that we didn't expect this scale of remodeling, you know, but because of the festival that we had to host, we had to increase the scale, you know, of the project.
What did you have in mind initially?
Just to increase, to do a remodeling of the project.
Packaging.
Yes, just the main bowl, then just some little facilities around. But because of the National Sports Festival, we had to work on the swimming pool, put up an indoor sports hall in the premises, and basically it's a world-class standard facility today. And it's, to me, it's impressive. It's something that gives me joy every time I pass or see pictures about it, that I was a part of that project. It gives me fulfillment, that project, because if you knew what that facility was like before the intervention of His Excellency, the Governor of the State, you would really appreciate what he has done in that project. It's a site, it's a tourist site to behold, you know, and I'm sure even with the intervention the government has put in place for sustenance of our public infrastructure, it will continue to remain like this for quite some time.
Now, how were you able to manage or marry all the different segments of the projects that, you know, that finally gave birth to the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium that we have today? Didn't you have any challenge?
There are challenges, but I think it's always good that you understand the challenges. Like you have said, how did we manage it?
Yes.
A major challenge we had in the stadium, for instance, was the tennis court. Sometime in the past, the stadium was known for the Ogbe hard court. And we got to understand that for you to really run a tennis tournament of international standard, you require 5 lawn tennis courts. Unfortunately, at the time of our intervention, we had 3 tennis courts, 2 in the main bowl and 1 single court outside. So that was a main challenge, to work with the space. Land doesn't grow. You have to work around increasing that number of tennis courts to 5, because when you are making an intervention, remodeling a place, you must get the best of it. And that would mean having 5 courts within the same arena. So we are able to work around the space and decently come up with that arrangement you find today, and ensuring that even when you have the single court, there is a smooth and seamless transition from the 4-in-1 to the single court without having to pass through any other event venue. We also had the challenge of the...
So you have the 5 courts now?
Yes, we have the 5 courts.
You didn't need to demolish any of the sections that probably were moribund or were no longer useful?
Yes, that's why I called it remodeling. Remodeling means you would bring down certain sections, and you know, that's what we basically had to do, because you couldn't get space without removing certain components. Another major challenge was the gymnastics, the gymnasium, you know. But what you find in the stadium today is, it's a wonder when you come to construction. The timeline for the construction of that gymnasium, the gymnasium is a suspended gymnasium. It's not on the floor.
Oh.
It's up. And it was done within a very short time, and we were able to execute that project. So that's another wonder. So the stadium, as I said, is a tourist site. The stories about the construction will come, and you will get to appreciate the efforts the contractor and everybody that was involved in that project had to put to ensure that we have what we have there today. The timeline was short because of the events, and somehow the epidemic came, and even though we were ready, we couldn't host the event. But that's a project that's
due to COVID-19.
Yes, due to COVID-19.
Okay, right. When you were speaking about physical and urban planning, and of course public buildings, I actually wanted to ask you now: does your office have anything to do with GIS?
Yes. In the urban space, there is a relationship between lands and planning. Edorodion basically is the land, titling registration of land, transactions. That serves as the basis as one of the, basic documents that we require in executing urban development and even granting building permits to those who are involved in development. So that's the relationship. Then the issues of land use compatibility is also a meeting point for these two arms of government because the Edorodion has the maps, the land documents for the state, but when it comes to assigning the use, most times it's the ministry. Okay. That's the Ministry of Fiscal Planning that actually has what it takes to assign what should be residential through our development plans. So that's the meeting point. So we work together to ensure that there is synergy in arriving at the final outcomes for such assignments. Then for certificates of occupancy issuance as well and consent, there are still meeting points there where we have to work together to ensure that what an applicant is applying for actually is proper for the applicant to get. Okay. So there are points we have to also work together in that regard. So we work very closely. We work very closely. The Edorodion, they are our closest neighbor.
That's good. I like to hear that.
Yes.
Now, there was this talk of exploring the cement as an option in road construction. Has this idea been jettisoned, or are there projects executed with this cement technology?
Yeah, the cement technology has proven to be very effective. Yes, we have examples in the city where certain sections of roads had to be done with concrete. Okay. Especially those sections that experience water logging. If you look at the Uselu Shed area, you notice they use concrete where there's always a flood. And for some time, that place has been relatively good. That's my own personal experience. I'm not an engineer, but from what I could see, I can understand that there is some improvement in the stability of those sections of roads. But the caution there is if you don't get the mix right and you don't allow the curing time, you might now not get a good result. If the mix is not right, concrete would not hold as it should. So I think the engineers who would choose to use cement would have to be very careful about those mixtures. And for construction, you have costs and benefits. What is the cost of doing this, and what benefits do you expect to derive from using this medium for construction? So I think those issues will also be considered because we understand the declining oil prices and the impact on the state. Yeah. So if it's now seen to give quality results at affordable cost, why not? But if the results are quality but at a very high cost, then I'm sure some real thought should be given to that medium for road construction.
All right.
Thank you.
What I didn't tell you earlier when you came on the program was that this program is being live, and it's like a mini hot seat because members of the public can, throw in questions. Now, I have a question that is coming from Ken Ikboy. It says, what is going on with the waste management in Edo State? Because everywhere you turn to, most especially around the market areas, they are littered. I know you are not the Commissioner for Environment.
Yes, but I'm in the government.
Exactly.
Yes. There are these issues, and I think to a large extent, attitude has a very important role to play. Our attitude to waste. There are certain points that were designated around these markets for waste to be disposed of. But many times you find that people prefer to put this waste on the median because they are afraid of going to dump those waste in those designated points because they have to probably pay 10 naira or 15 naira if maybe somebody collects something from them or the place is far from them I don't know why they choose
this
to.
10 naira or 15 naira
I don't know.
or
I'm
100
saying
naira, is it from the government or is just from the waste management people that are trying to extort money from them? Because we understand that there are independent waste
collectors.
Yes, collectors. So is this coming from them?
When I say they are designated points,
yes,
and that people refuse to go to these designated points, yes, if government engages waste collectors, the waste collectors you must subscribe to be able to get access to such services. So it's not my area.
Yes.
So I assume that they will have designated points. I assume that in such designated points where these waste collectors will be, there might be need for some level of subscription to be able to have access to that service. So if you choose not to subscribe and you now choose to dump it at the median at awkward times,
they should be ready to face the consequences.
The attitude issue I talked about. We live in our various homes. We understand how we dispose our wastes. And it's the same collectors. And I'm very sure we don't do it for free. So we pay something at the end of the month, or we pay something at the point of collection every time they come to collect. So there might be a way to, there is a way, that's what I'm trying to say, that this government has a system for collecting and disposing wastes. But what you find that is creating this problem is more of an attitude thing. People not really willing to comply with some of these laid down.
Now, if you were to talk to the market women right now, because I know that a lot of them are watching this program, I want you to look at them in the face, talk to them in pidgin, in the language that you know they will understand. Tell them to do the right thing.
Yes.
We are on.
Yes, I understand the economic situation for us. It's not a very...
Speak pidgin, come to their level.
I understand the way...
I know
the way money matter be for the country now. But we will also understand and appreciate health over our material things where we say we dey gather, say now we get, No, not even the dirty yet. We go appreciate say we strong, we not sick, we not the hospital over the motor where you want buy, or the house where you want build, or the wrapper where you want tie go program. Why I'm saying this is that even the period where we did now, they call epidemic period, COVID-19 period. Now disease they from many things they come. This dirty where you go put front of your road, put front of your store. Near you there, you they sell tomatoes. From the tomatoes, you say now people will won't buy the tomatoes, now go get disease. The people you not gonna know who go buy them. It be like person where throw stone, go market. The tomatoes, if you not sell finish, you remember say you want cook stew. You go use from inside that same tomatoes way near where fly they perch for inside dirty. So what are they talk now say? No matter waiting government say make una pay for dirty, make that they carry am. Make sacrifice. No say it is cheaper to comply by some of this government procedure, because government is very sensitive to una say market woman where they sell where they make 500 naira profit. You not go fit pay 100 naira for instance. I'm just using an example.
Yes.
Say you make 500. Government don't already know say now 50 naira you go fit pay. So they'll say this kind of business person, when I want to go through with dirty, pay 20 naira for the place. Instead of you to pay 20 naira, some of you now want to go put the dirty for center of road. So it better make you pay that 20 naira, make the people where they carry on for where they say make una they put am, than to leave am for road. What if it still cost for road? Dirty the center of road. If it cause accident, you know, those not even physical things where we say you go, even they see one say dirty come mistakenly for truck pass, motor one turn hand, it go jam person way this side of road. So all those things not good. Government they try. Why I still talk small for this matter now, because I did committee where they call cleanup committee. We don't work out small for inside market. We don't understand some of these problems. Those are not the ministry. I appreciate the challenges when this committee they face for inside the work when government they try to do to make sure say market clean. So I encourage you now. Say it's not easy for everybody, but we must try to safeguard our health and our life, so that when the future better, we go be part of that future in good health to benefit from waiting day better. Thank you.
Thank you. Shey, una don't hear. They say make una keep una environment clean. Cleanliness, like they say, they nearest to godliness. When I hear, thank you. Now, are there plans to use interlocking blocks in road projects in Edo State?
While as I said, I'm in Ministry of Physical Planning, we're into building. We use interlocking bricks for external works in our project. If you go to the Secretariat complex, we combine interlocking bricks with, asphalt. Some other project sites, we might have had to use full interlocking bricks for the entire perimeter for external work. But that just is within our project scope, within the project site. It's not actually for road projects. Interlocking, when you look at climate change, it has a lot of benefits when properly done. Because this issue of flooding that we are complaining about in Benin, if we employ that method of construction in road construction, you realize that the runoff, when the gather come, many come, cause flood. The runoff that causes flood, and I'm now speaking pidgin, is actually going to be reduced because the interlocking paved stones would have ability to absorb runoff, rainfall, unlike asphalt. Asphalt doesn't absorb, it pushes away. So that is an advantage. Yes, it's climate change. If you look at benefits of surfaces, interlocking has advantage of absorbing. That's why you see in some coastal areas, they use more of interlocking stones than asphalt. That's one major benefit. But the costs and benefit, as I said, what do you intend to gain? Is it cheaper to do surface drains, or is it cheaper to do interlocking stone, interlocking pavement? These are things that must be considered because we don't really have so much to spend in all these projects. So you must look at what actually suits that particular situation. It's not just the aesthetics. Thank you.
All right, when we come back, we are going to be taking a look at the relationship between the ministry and the Waterstone Project. Stay with us.
This another comprehensive project by the Obaseki-led government. It started in June, and 1st of June to be precise, 2018. The entire project covers about 70 hectares. At the moment, 3 hectares have been built upon with about 68 houses already sold out, and a comprehensive road network divided into 2 parts: the service lanes and the dual carriageway that runs across the entire prospect. This is phase 1, about 3 hectares. The phase 2 is on the other side, about 3 hectares as well. Everything here is 6 hectares. So we have balance of 64 hectares to go. One of the houses has 2 apartments, 3 bedrooms each, which we refer to as the twin apartments. And there are 8 buildings of such. In a few days' time, the second phase will commence in earnest. The road project, as I said, is ongoing, and you can see the machines working in earnest. I wish to also say that this project has given a lot of jobs to many Edo citizens, both the skilled and unskilled workers.
My name is Obi Choma. I've been working here in this Immortal Garden Estate past 2 years and now. Ever since I've been working here, my salary, even before month end, I received my salary. I'm very, very happy. If you look around this Edo State, especially in this upper now, this area, I know how this area was before, you know. It's because of the work of Obaseki, this estate, Immortal Garden Estate now, you can come around this area. You cannot be afraid of anything because of this Immortal Garden Estate here. Obaseki have given us securities everywhere. Now, we are proud of him.
Are we on? Yes, you're welcome back.
Thank you.
Now let me bust your brain, or bust your head. Let me make your head swell. Somebody says every one of his service chiefs and commissioners know exactly what they are doing. That is coming from Sally OO. Says you're doing a very good job. I don't know if Sally is a man or a woman. Says you're doing a very good job. And Ivan Pana says the Ogbe Stadium complex is a blessing to all of us. Obaseki, thank you for your wonderful work in Edo State. That is coming from Ozika Abraham. Now, you were talking about the bus terminal in Edo, that's the central bus terminal, you know, within the city. Yes. Now, what is the level of work done? What is the status of that work as it's ongoing?
Yes, the work is an extensive work, and there is need to actually compensate and acquire properties abutting the Oba Market Road from the Oba Karaye axis, where you had the school that is now under construction, to ensure that the access to the park, the central terminal, is unrestricted. It's effective. The circulation flow is just effective for that purpose, to reduce traffic congestion. We have gone quite far in the project, but still a lot has to be done. Yes, and I think that is a project that should get the kind of finish the stadium project got before it is actually commissioned and put into use. It's not something we want to do haphazardly. And I'm convinced from my experiences on other projects in the state that this government will ensure that a project is fully completed before it's put to use. And that will give us the best benefit from that project.
Have you had any challenges on this particular project?
The site selection was wonderful, considering its centrality in the city. Yeah. You have the King Square, and there is nowhere you will get around the King Square of that size for a central bus terminal than where you find it, and it's very close to the King Square. If you look at it, it's on the Oba Market Road, which is a dual carriage way at an intersection. An intersection to Ekenwa, an intersection to the GRA Airport Road axis, an intersection towards the ring road itself that would distribute to Sopomba, Sapler Road, Ikoba Hill, and an intersection towards the Ego and Ubo axis of the city. That's why I say it's a beautiful selection.
So there's been no challenge?
The challenge that we've had is what we are overcoming now, the issue of trying to acquire more space to ensure that the size is adequate. Looking at the King Square, as it were, the government has intervened through the Ministry of Infrastructure in providing parking facilities within the King Square. It's also important we understand that there is going to be some transition in mode of transport, or will I say means of transport. Yeah. For instance, if you are in Ugbowo and you're trying to get to maybe Idobo, and you don't want to drive to Idobo, you should be able to park at the Central Bus Park terminal and take a public transport to take you to Idobo with assurances that your vehicle you have parked is secure within the same environment. So this is what that park will be about. Ensuring that people, commuters who want to drive to the park and for certain other reasons do not want to continue their journey in their own private vehicles to certain destinations, have the opportunity to, drop their private vehicles and hop in on a bus or taxi going to their desired destinations.
But parking at the central bus terminal definitely will attract a little stipend.
I don't think there's anything free in Freetown. So for us to be able to have a decent park, and there's what you would call, there must be some, government is not to extort its people. Government will ensure that things run properly, and it will put what is affordable, what is ideal for its people to be able to patronize, basically. So I think there must be something.
Okay.
It can't be for free for all.
Which means that government is also looking at increasing the IGR through that process.
As I said, the government is not interested in, how did I put it? It's not interested in extorting.
It's not extortion.
I know what I'm trying to say. In as much as government is looking for IGR, it will not put rates that are prohibitive. It will not put rates that are not sensitive or exorbitant to its people. Yes, IGR would naturally come from such opportunities, but that is not the goal. That's what I'm trying to say of the Central Bus Park.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, we hear that there is an ongoing plan for urban development. Now, what is the status of this plan, and how is your ministry working to regulate the development of residential estates and agricultural estates in the state?
Okay. The urban development plan, we expect to have master plans for Benin across the three senatorial districts, Benin, Eromona, Uromi, and for Auchi axis. We have started engagements and discussions with the United Nations Habitat in this regard. We've put out some, expression of interest proposals, and we are expecting that we would get fully into this immediately. This pandemic, is out, because that has actually created a problem in the process. We had gone quite far until this coronavirus problem came in. So that has brought a little delay. But we've gone far. We are trying to attend to the three senatorial districts in this regard at the same time. Thank you.
Okay. Now, what is the relationship between your ministry and the Waterstone Project?
Yes, Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development basically is involved in anything that has to do with space and land. I would say this because we are directly involved with land use. And where something is to occur in space within the state, we have a role to play in terms of granting permits or assigning land use. In regards to the new map project, the World Bank is working with the state to ensure that the issue of flooding, gully erosions and stuff are, adequately attended to, especially as it is presently creating a threat to the urban centers. Using Benin City as an example, we have worked closely with them in the Gapiona axis. We've worked closely with them. In that axis, we have their large ponds that they construct to be able to absorb large volume of water, where other drainages will be connected to, and that is able to absorb the large volume of water. The scientific study identifying those locations is actually done by them, but having identified suitable sites for those locations and the paths for the drainages, we now come in to attend to the issues of development on those paths. More often they try to identify areas that are less encumbered, where development haven't really gotten to. So it reduces compensations, it reduces conflicts that would arise in their projects. So wherever we find developments existing, we step in to ensure that those developments are proper, they have permits, because you are entitled to compensation when you've done something that is proper. You cannot just build something anywhere, and even if it's not supposed to be there, you would expect our government to pay for that thing. If there are special considerations in such cases, yes, it will be special. But what the law will provide is that you should have your development permits. So we go to ensure that such mapped out routes and sites for their projects are clear for them to actually execute their projects. Basically.
Now, okay, finally, what are the three, I know there may be more, but we just need to zero in on three. Now, what are the three major projects that you think would secure the governor his re-election?
The first project, it's I would say is the people. The governor is someone, if you know him, is passionate about his people. So I think that's the first project. If you look at his activities, you will see that he has touched the people in every way. So the people should look within and say, what have we benefited from the government? You would find out that he has made businesses thrive. If that's one thing you need to know, you will see that businesses have thrived within the last 3 years. Yeah. There's been development. He has paid salaries as when due. He has paid pensions as at when due. Promotions have come. I have personally made recommendations for staff that I thought had done well, and he has actually given them accelerated promotion. So his first project will be the people. He's someone that believes very much and likes his people. So that's the first project. The next project should be his, let me not be too general. It should be the mini stadium. Okay. Yeah, it should be the mini stadium. The pandemic, the coronavirus brought us to come to appreciate our time and ourselves. People actually try to now, during this period of limited movement, you needed to do exercises. I go to some places and people will say, oh, I'm going to that stadium. I will say, which stadium? They will say they are going to Western Boys Stadium. I will say, so the stadium is, so people are now identifying with such facilities within our own local governments and catchment areas. We need to finish that. It's something that will help. That's a major project he has done. 20 mini stadia across the state, and that's a project. Then the Eromona and the Civil Service Reform Project. Those are, I'll group that together, the Samuel Ogumilya Stadium and the Civil Service Reform Project. He's done so much. It's difficult to actually mention 3 projects.
All right.
That he has done.
So we'll take our last break now. We'll come back. We'll take 1 or 2 comments from our page. Okay. Stay with us.
Thank you.
The newly rebuilt Samuel Ogumilya Stadium is a testament of the Governor Godwin Obaseki-led administration's commitment to drive infrastructural revolution in the state and promote its aggressive sports development plan. The governor also embarked on the construction of 20 mini stadia with at least 1 stadium in each of the 18 local government areas of the state to further broaden the scope of sports infrastructural development. Already, over 5 of these 20 mini stadia have been completed. The world-class Samuel Ogumilya Stadium, which was ready to host the National Sports Festival, now postponed because of the COVID-19 pandemic, hosts an Olympic standard swimming pool, new 4-in-1 tennis court and spectator stand, a 2-story secretariat, a squash court and spectator stand with a befitting secretariat, a single tennis court for finals with spectator stand, weightlifting and para-powerlifting hall, which is attached to the main bowl, and the new gymnasium hall for weightlifting, kickboxing and boxing, among other facilities. Also, the tartan tracks and the football pitch were readied and brought to international standard for the spectacular event. Edo State is set to host over 11,000 athletes from across the country at the National Sports Festival, having beaten other states to win the hosting rights for the yearly sports tournament. In the last 3 years and 7 months, the Obaseki-led administration has continued to pursue developmental projects in the sports sector to create employment and keep our youths meaningfully engaged. This calls for the support of all Edo people to ensure continuity of this and such other noble projects. Come September 19, 2020, Let's all come out en masse to vote for Governor Godwin Obaseki and Philip Shaibu for Edo's assured and continued progress.
You're welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, Eromona, somebody is asking, that is Natome Andrew. He says, what is the ministry doing to discourage rural-urban migration, that is bringing development to the rural area?
Yes, the issue of migration, people moving from villages, small towns, not even towns, villages, settlements, farm settlements to towns and cities in the state has always been there. The governor is very conscious of this. My ministry has a role to play. I will speak about what we are actually doing, then I will also talk about what the state, a little about what I know that the state is doing.
Okay.
Yes. If you look at, if you listened, I had actually mentioned that we have our main office in Benin and have area offices across the local government areas. Though not all the local government areas, but relatively spread across. That shows that the ministry is conscious of the, the other parts of the state. Then secondly, I mentioned the issue of the development plans. I didn't talk about development plan for just Benin City.
Yeah.
I mentioned that these development plans will be done at the same time across the state, across the three senatorial districts. I mentioned Benin City, I mentioned Epoma Uromi, then I mentioned Auchi. And the way these development plans operate is in a way that yes, they are working on the city, but they also have effect. They have relationships with the rural settlements around such cities. So that gives you an understanding that the ministry is looking at the state as a whole, not just as a city of Benin or Auchi or Epoma. Okay. And for the state's approach, you find Gele Gele, for instance, the river port. That's a predominantly rural environment. And you see the government is trying to put something that would improve industry and commerce in that axis to keep people there. In fact, when that project comes to life, you realize that some people would even leave Benin to Gele Gele because their livelihood, their businesses would just be there and it will thrive because it's a river port. Government has done that. You look at what the Ministry of Agric is doing in decentralizing the College of Agriculture, for instance, across the senatorial districts as one college. That's another approach the state has used. Even in education, College of Education, you see how it's been decentralized. These are approaches the state government has adopted in Ministry of Education, in Ministry of Agric. When you come to health, you talk about the primary health care. Government is very interested in the primary health care centers. These are ways to ensure that the people in our rural areas have access to health care. Once you have access to health care, you have access to agricultural investments or activity in form of farms, even in training. Then you have access to education, even for training yourself to become an education expert, a teacher or something. Then the rush to the main city or the main urban centers within the state will be reduced. So I think the state is very conscious about this. Then you now look at the intervention from the Ministry of Infrastructure when it comes to roads. If you listen to His Excellency during his campaigns, he's going from one ward to the next ward. If you listen to his interviews and his campaign, you hear him say, I've come to this ward. I didn't know that this ward had this vast expanse of land that had opportunity. I will ensure that I will do this road construction from here to there to give access so that these places will open. That tells you his passion for those people that are not within our major urban centers and how he thinks they can get the best of life, even wherever they find themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just one comment from Ivan Opana. Ivan Pana says, Governor Godwin Obaseki is at home with young people, most especially those that are in his employment. Thank you very much, Ivan, for that comment. So with that, we've come to the end of today's this morning's session of the program. We were chatting with Dr. Eromona Edorodion, the Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much for taking out time out of your very busy schedule to be with us.
Thank you very much.
And of course, you know, yesterday I did mention that we now have a phone number that you can reach us on, and I'll still mention the number again. Is 0905 170 2571. 0905 170 2571. Why we didn't want to open that phone today is because our technicians are still working, you know, behind to ensure that when we open it, we are going to have a hitch-free transition for you to be able to communicate with us and, of course, with the guests that we're bringing on board. The commissioner has spoken about training in batches of the ministry staff. He talked about digitizing and archiving planning permits, and also he touched on a lot of other public buildings, and most especially, I think the one that he really spoke passionately about was the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium, a very big project, which of course is a blessing to Edo people, like one of our respondents has said. So on behalf of everybody that has worked behind the scene to ensure that this program was hit-free, my name is Habiba Oyege Oyarekwa. Good afternoon.
No man is guarded. Obaseki, your governor. Forward ever, backward never. Let's go further together. Godwin Obaseki, Obaseki is the right candidate for Edo. Vote our man Oh yeah, 4+4 equals to continuity. Obaseki, continue your work, yo. You do Ogbe Stadium renovation, even we hit the door best. Plenty achievement for your time, oh. Our life will done better, eh. Obaseki and Shaibu, now them be the winning team. Godwin Obaseki.